पैराबोलिक सार क्या होता है? पैराबोलिक सार इज पैराबोलिक स्टॉप एंड रिवर्स। स्टॉप एंड रिवर्स का मतलब क्या होता है कि आप हमेशा मार्केट में ट्रेड में ही रहते हो, या आप बाई में रहोगे या आप सेल में रहोगे। बाई का स्टॉप लॉस लगा सेल में आ जाओगे, सेल का स्टॉप लॉस लगा बाई में चले जाओगे। तो ये जो कैंडल आप देख रहे हो यहाँ पे खास आप नोट कीजिए, ये कैंडल जो है ये आ गया 30 के ईएमए के नीचे, लेकिन क्या पैराबोलिक सार ऊपर है? नहीं है। पैराबोलिक सार ऊपर कहाँ पे चालू हुआ? यहाँ पे। तो ये कैंडल के ऊपर है 30 का ईएमए, पैराबोलिक सार भी ऊपर है, तो इस कैंडल के लो के नीचे मेरी एंट्री बनेगी। लेकिन एक और कंफर्मेशन चाहिए। क्या कंफर्मेशन चाहिए? हेलो दोस्तों, आदिब नूरानी हियर फ्रॉम CoinDCX। आज हम बात करने वाले हैं एक ऐसी स्ट्रेटेजी की जिसमें इंडिकेटर तो हम 3 लगाएंगे, लेकिन लाजवाब ब्रेकआउट्स और लाजवाब ट्रेंड फॉलोइंग करेंगे। ये करेंगे हम स्विंग में। हम यूज करेंगे 2 घंटे का चार्ट। हमने अभी तक 4 आवर्स के चार्ट यूज किए हैं, डेली वीकली भी यूज किया है। 2 आवर्स का चार्ट मैंने आपको कभी भी यूज नहीं करवाया है। फर्स्ट टाइम मैं आपको 2 आवर्स का चार्ट यूज करा रहा हूँ। इस स्ट्रेटेजी में 2 आवर्स का चार्ट यूज क्यों कर रहे हैं, उसके पीछे एक पर्टिकुलर रीजन है। वो रीजन क्या है, वीडियो चलाते चलाते मैं आपको समझाऊंगा। और कमेंट्स में मैं कई बार पढ़ता हूँ ये क्वेश्चंस आते हैं कि सर इसको बीटीसी में कर पाएंगे या नहीं, इसको हम ईथर में कर पाएंगे या नहीं, इसको हम सोलाना में कर पाएंगे या नहीं। तो आपको बेसिकली घबराने की जरूरत ही नहीं है। भले क्रिप्टो या क्रिप्टो के जितने भी ये एसेट्स हैं, अलग अलग एसेट क्लासेस हैं, वो सब नया है। आपके लिए नया है, मेरे लिए नया है, पूरी दुनिया के लिए नया है। अभी 16 ही साल हुए हैं इसको आके, क्रिप्टो को इस दुनिया में। मतलब 2009 में कहीं ना कहीं ये एग्जिस्टेंस में आया था। आज 2026 में हम खड़े हैं, तो 2025 तक भी गिनो तो 16 साल हुए हैं। 17वां साल शुरू है, तो ये 16 साल स्वीट 16 है। बाकी के जितने भी एसेट क्लासेस है बहुत पुराने हो चुके हैं। जैसे गोल्ड को आप देखो तो कहीं 100 साल पुराना है, प्रॉपर्टीज को देखो तो कहीं 1000 साल पुरानी है, स्टॉक मार्केट्स को देखो तो भी 100, 200, 250 साल पुराने हैं। ये एसेट क्लास नया है। एसेट क्लास नया हो जाने की वजह से सब कुछ बदल नहीं जाता। एसेट क्लास भले नया है, लेकिन तरीका वही पुराना है। चाहे ट्रेडिंग हो चाहे इन्वेस्टिंग हो, तरीका वही पुराना है। तो आगे बढ़ते हैं, नए एसेट क्लास को वही अपने बेसिक तरीके से समझने की कोशिश करते हैं। अच्छी अच्छी चीजें मैं आपको ले आके हमेशा देता हूं। आज हम 2 घंटे के चार्ट में विलियम्स परसेंटेज और पैराबोलिक एसआर को लगा के देखते हैं। पैराबोलिक सार क्या होता है? पैराबोलिक सार इज पैराबोलिक स्टॉप एंड रिवर्स। स्टॉप एंड रिवर्स का मतलब क्या होता है कि आप हमेशा मार्केट में ट्रेड में ही रहते हो, या आप बाई में रहोगे या आप सेल में रहोगे। बाई का स्टॉप लॉस लगा सेल में आ जाओगे, सेल का स्टॉप लॉस लगा बाई में चले जाओगे। बाई का प्रॉफिट हिट हुआ सेल में चले जाओगे, सेल का प्रॉफिट हिट हुआ बाई में चले जाओगे। ट्रेलिंग करते रहोगे और जब तक पैराबोलिक सार नहीं बोलेगा तब तक नहीं निकलोगे। ये उसका फीचर होता है, लेकिन हम इसको उस तरीके से यूज नहीं करेंगे, थोड़ा सा मॉडिफिकेशन से यूज करेंगे। और विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर का तो ऑलरेडी आपने मेरा वीडियो देखा हुआ ही है पहले भी। वापिस मैं आपको नए तरीके से विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर को दिखाता हूं, क्योंकि आप लोगों ने लिखा था एडवांस्ड स्ट्रैटेजी चाहिए विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर में कमेंट्स के अंदर में। तो आगे बढ़ते हैं, ये थोड़ा सा एडवांसमेंट इसके अंदर है। हम इसमें क्या क्या यूज करेंगे, हम विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर यूज करेंगे। पहले हमने जो विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर यूज किया था उसका लेंथ था 14, अब यूज करेंगे हम लेंथ 30। क्यों? क्योंकि हम बड़ी टाइम फ्रेम में काम कर रहे हैं, हम स्विंग्स में काम करेंगे, 2 आवर्स में काम करेंगे। 2 आवर्स इज हाउ मेनी मिनट्स? 2 आवर्स इज 60 + 60 120 मिनट्स। 120 डिवाइड बाय 4 करोगे तो क्या आएगा? 30। तो मैंने 120 डिवाइड बाय 4 करके यहाँ यूज किया है, या इसको ऐसे बोल लो कि 30 का मैंने विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर यूज किया है, इसीलिए मल्टीप्लीकेशन ऑफ 4 में टाइम फ्रेम लिया है, उसका रिजल्ट बहुत अच्छा आता है। और मैंने यहाँ पे ईएमए भी यूज किया है, उसको भी 30 यूज किया है, जस्ट बिकॉज कि मेरे को 4 के मल्टीपल में टाइम फ्रेम यूज करना था। अगर मैं 4 आवर्स में जाता तो मेरे ईएमए और विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर बड़े हो जाते, तो रिजल्ट इतना अच्छा नहीं आता। तो मुझे चूंकि यहाँ पे 30 का विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर यूज करना था, तो 30 का ईएमए यूज करना था, मैंने 4 के मल्टीपल का टाइम फ्रेम यूज किया है, इसीलिए मैंने यहाँ 2 आवर्स का टाइम फ्रेम यूज किया है। एनीवेज, तो 30 की आप लेंथ रखेंगे, -50 अपर लिमिट, -50 लोअर लिमिट। क्यों? क्योंकि मुझे एक ही लाइन चाहिए उसमें, इसके ऊपर बाय और इसके नीचे सेल इस तरीके से चाहिए, इसीलिए मैंने दोनों को -50 पे लाके रख दिया है। पहले विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर का थ्रेशोल्ड मैंने अलग रखा था, ऊपर ट्रेंड ट्रेड कर रहे थे और नीचे भी नीचे के ट्रेंड का ट्रेड कर रहे थे, लेकिन इस बार हमने मीडियन पे रख दिया है 50 पे। अकॉर्डिंगली हम ट्रेड करेंगे। आगे बढ़ता हूं, पैराबोलिक सार की क्या सेटिंग्स रखोगे? बाय डिफॉल्ट पैराबोलिक सार की सेटिंग्स आती है 0.02, आप 0.01 रखोगे। ये भी 0.02 होता है, इसको भी 0.01 रखोगे, और ये 0.2 आता है, इसको 0.1 रखोगे। फिर आगे बढ़ता हूँ, ईएमए का मैंने अभी आपको बता दिया कि ईएमए यूजुअली आप बाय डिफॉल्ट 9 आती है, आपको 9 नहीं रखना है, आप उसको 30 कर दोगे, इसको नहीं छेड़ोगे, ये क्लोज का क्लोज रहेगा। ये हमारे वैसे भी कोई काम का नहीं है क्योंकि यहाँ पे मैंने इसको ऑफ रखा हुआ है। इसका कलर मैंने व्हाइट कर दिया था कि विजुअली मुझे अच्छा दिखे, और कोई लॉजिक नहीं है। तो सिर्फ एक ही चेंज यहाँ मैंने किया है, 9 की जो बाय डिफॉल्ट आती है उसको मैंने 30 की है। 30 करने का रीजन मैंने आपको बता दिया, 4 के मल्टीपल में मैंने टाइम फ्रेम ली है। 30 इंटू 4 इज 120, 120 डिवाइड बाई 60 इज 2, तो 2 घंटे का मैंने टाइम फ्रेम लिया है। बहुत सिंपल सा लॉजिक है, कोई रॉकेट साइंस नहीं है। आगे बढ़ता हूं, अब आप अगर देखेंगे तो ये स्ट्रेटेजी के रूल्स आ गए, बाई के, सेल के भी रूल्स दिखा दूंगा, चार्ट भी यहीं पे दिखा दूंगा, लाइव चार्ट पे भी जाके कॉइनडिसेक्स के प्लेटफॉर्म पे हम देख लेंगे ये बाई के रूल्स। आप पॉज कीजिए, स्क्रीनशॉट ले लीजिए, नोट डाउन करोगे नोट पेन में तो बहुत अच्छा रहेगा। नोटपैड और पेन हमेशा आपके पास रहेगा, स्क्रीनशॉट्स तो जैसे ही मोबाइल भरेगा डिलीट करोगे, स्क्रैप कर दोगे, तो वो आपको कुछ भी याद नहीं रहने वाला है। और मुझे पता है कि हर एक व्यूअर के मोबाइल में पता नहीं कितने वीडियोस के स्क्रीनशॉट्स पड़े होंगे जो आपने कभी पलट के देखे भी नहीं होंगे। तो प्लीज हो सके तो नोट्स बना लीजिए। अगर आप ऑन द गो हो, कहीं बाहर हो, कोई दिक्कत नहीं, बाद में नोट्स बना लीजिएगा। फिलहाल स्क्रीनशॉट ले लीजिए या सेव टू वॉच लेटर कर लीजिए, बाद में भी आप कर सकते हो। एनीवेज, तो यहाँ पे हम क्या कर रहे हैं, यहाँ पे 2 घंटे का 2 आवर्स का टाइम फ्रेम यूज कर रहे हैं। फिर हम क्या देखेंगे, हम देखेंगे प्राइस -50। अब विलियम्स परसेंटेज आ रहे हैं ना, माइनस में चलता है, जैसे आरएसआई स्टोकेस्टिक सब प्लस में चलते हैं, 0 to 100, 200 to 200, ऐसे -200 to +200 ऐसे चलते हैं। कोई भी अलग अलग इंडिकेटर से अलग अलग तरीके से, लेकिन ये पर्टिकुलर इंडिकेटर ऐसा है जो माइनस में चलता है, 0 से -100 ऐसे चलता है, ऊपर 0 नीचे -100। तो हमें क्या देखना है, जब -50 जो बीच की लाइन है उससे ऊपर चल रहा है विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर, और पीएसआर के ऊपर प्राइस चल रहा है, मतलब पैराबोलिक सार नीचे है, प्राइस ऊपर है, और ईएमए 30 के ऊपर प्राइस है। 3 कंडीशन। आप बोलोगे सर आप ही बोलते हो 3-3, 4-4 इंडिकेटर मत यूज किया करो। हाँ, मैं जरूर बोलता हूँ 3-4 इंडिकेटर, 5 इंडिकेटर मत यूज करो। क्यों? क्योंकि आप लोग ऐसे इंडिकेटर यूज कर लेते हो जो एक ही पर्पस के लिए 3 इंडिकेटर यूज कर लेते हो। आपने लगा लिया एक मूविंग एवरेज एसएमए, आपने लगा लिया एक ईएमए, आपने लगा लिया एक सुपर ट्रेंड, तीनों यूज करते हो आप ट्रेंड देखने के लिए। तो वैसे नहीं करना है। एक इंडिकेटर आपका ट्रेंड दिखाने के लिए होना चाहिए, एक इंडिकेटर आपका बायस सेट करने के लिए होना चाहिए, एक इंडिकेटर आपको मोमेंटम देना चाहिए, एक इंडिकेटर आपको ट्रेंड की स्ट्रेंथ देना चाहिए। तो ऐसे 3-4 इंडिकेटर लगाओ तो कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। मैं हमेशा हर वीडियो जब भी मल्टीपल इंडिकेटर्स यूज करता हूँ, ये बात आपको करता ही हूं कि आप हाँ मल्टीपल इंडिकेटर्स यूज कर सकते हो, लेकिन उस इंडिकेटर का रिजल्ट एक दूसरे से टकराना नहीं चाहिए। अगर वो टकराएगा तो आपको ट्रेड ही नहीं करने देगा, आपको कॉन्ट्राडिक्टरी व्यूज देता रहेगा, बाई सेल में आप फंस जाओगे। लेकिन जब वो इंडिकेटर्स मिलके कन्फ्लुएंस देके कंफर्मेशन देंगे तो दोज इंडिकेटर्स आर वेरी गुड, साथ में यूज कर सकते हो। तो आगे बढ़ते हैं। बफर इस स्ट्रेटेजी में कितना रहेगा, 0.03% का रहेगा, मतलब अगर 80,000 का बीटीसी है तो $24 का बफर रहेगा। कैंडल के हाई के ऊपर बफर रखना है, कैंडल के लो के नीचे एसएल के लिए भी बफर रखना है। 1:1 बुक कर देना है 50% पे, और कॉस्ट टू कॉस्ट लेके आ जाना है बाकी 50% क्वांटिटी को। और दूसरा 50% कब बुक करोगे, 1:2, 1:3 में बुक नहीं करोगे। जब पैराबोलिक सार नीचे था और प्राइस ऊपर था तो आपने बाई किया, तो 1:1 हो जाने के बाद जब पैराबोलिक सार ऊपर चले जाए और प्राइस नीचे चले जाए तो आप उसका प्रॉफिट बुकिंग कर लोगे। या उससे पहले अगर विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर 50 से नीचे चला जाए, -50 से नीचे, तब आप कर लोगे। ये सारा मैं आपको चार्ट के स्क्रीनशॉट पे भी बता दूंगा, ताकि ये थियोरेटिकल याद नहीं रहेगा, वो आपको याद रह जाएगा। आगे बढ़ता हूं। ये सेल के रूल्स है, पॉज करके आप सेल के रूल्स भी लिख लीजिए, और सेम जो मैंने बाई में बताया वो सेल में उसका उल्टा है। मैं चार्ट पे ले जाके दोनों आपको समझा देता हूँ। सेल पे मैं ज्यादा देर रुकता नहीं हूँ। ये आप चार्ट पे देखो, ट्रेड इलस्ट्रेशन मैंने दिया हुआ है। यहाँ अगर आप गौर से देखोगे तो ये जो व्हाइट लाइन दिख रही है, ये व्हाइट लाइन क्या है, ये व्हाइट लाइन है 50 का ईएमए। ये जो नीचे आपको दिख रहा है ये क्या है, ये है विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर। यहाँ पे देखो WPR लिखा हुआ है, परसेंटेज आर लिखा हुआ है, विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर। ये बीच में जो व्हाइट लाइन दिख रही है ये वो -50 का लेवल है। आप अगर गौर से देखो तो विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर 0 से शुरू होता है और नीचे जाकर -100 पे खत्म होता है। आपने जो दूसरे ऑसिलेटर्स यूज किए होंगे, ऐसे नीचे लगाने वाले अंडरले इंडिकेटर्स यूज किए होंगे, वहां नीचे 0 से शुरू होता है और ऊपर वो 100 तक, 200 तक, जैसा इंडिकेटर वैसा जाता है। लेकिन इस इंडिकेटर में ऐसा नहीं है, इस इंडिकेटर में उल्टा है। अब ये उल्टा क्यों है, इसका मैथमेटिकल कंस्ट्रक्शन ही ऐसा है। आप इस पे मत दिमाग लगाओगे उल्टा क्यों है, आप इस पे दिमाग लगाओ कि इसका ये सारा सिंक जो इंडिकेटर्स का मैंने किया है 2 घंटे की टाइम फ्रेम में, रिजल्ट बहुत सुपर डुपर है। बीटीसी में तो लाजवाब रिजल्ट है। तो बीटीसी में आप यूज करोगे बहुत मजा आएगा। बाकी आप हाई लिक्विड कॉइन्स में यूज कर सकते हो, ईथर में, सोलाना में, बीएनबी में, रिपल में, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, आराम से यूज कर सकते हो, बट बीटीसी वर्क्स फ्लॉलेस। एनीवेज आगे बढ़ते हैं। यहाँ पे अगर आप गौर से देखो, ये मैं जूम करके आपको दिखा रहा हूं, यहाँ पे अगर आप गौर से देखो तो प्राइस कहाँ चल रहा है, प्राइस 50 ईएमए के ऊपर चल रहा है, पैराबोलिक सार के ऊपर चल रहा है, और यहाँ पे विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर के 50 लाइन से ऊपर गया। जैसे ही ये तीनों का कन्फ्लुएंस हुआ, उस कैंडल, जो कैंडल ने कन्फ्लुएंस किया है, उस कैंडल के हाई के ऊपर बफर रख के मैं एंट्री लूंगा, उस कैंडल के लो के नीचे बफर रख के मेरा एसएल है, और मैं 1:1 बुक करूंगा। कब? 50% क्वांटिटी 1:1 बुक कर लूंगा, बाकी की 50% क्वांटिटी का एसएल कॉस्ट टू कॉस्ट लाके तब तक नहीं निकलूंगा जब तक या तो प्राइस पैराबोलिक सार के नीचे चला जाए, या तो प्राइस ईएमए के नीचे चला जाए, या तो प्राइस आपका विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर -50 लाइन के नीचे चला जाए। तो इस तरीके से ये जो ट्रेड बना, ये आपका 1:1 का टारगेट यहाँ कहीं दिया है, और दूसरा टारगेट इसने यहाँ पे दिया है जब पैराबोलिक सार कन्वर्ट हुआ है। तो पैराबोलिक सार जब कन्वर्ट हुआ है, वो एक्चुअली ये वाली कैंडल है, तो यहाँ वाला एरिया है, यहाँ वाला एरिया, ठीक है। इसके बाद आगे बढ़ते हैं, वापस देखिए यहाँ पे विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर 50 के ऊपर गया, कैंडल पैराबोलिक सार के ऊपर है, और ईएमए 30 के ऊपर है, तो इसके हाई के ऊपर बफर रख के बाई, इसके लो के नीचे बफर रख के एसएल। तो मैं इस ट्रेड में 1:1 बुक करने के बाद कॉस्ट टू कॉस्ट एसएल लाके तब तक बैठूंगा जब तक प्राइस पैराबोलिक सार के नीचे नहीं चला जाता, या विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर -50 के नीचे नहीं चला जाता। तो इस केस में विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर -50 के नीचे बाद में गया है, पहले प्राइस पैराबोलिक सार के नीचे गया है। तो आगे बढ़ते हैं, तो हम अब सेल का एग्जांपल देख लेते हैं। सेल के एग्जांपल में अगर आप गौर से देखोगे तो यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है, यहाँ पे विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर 50 के नीचे चला गया है, -50 के नीचे। प्राइस जो है इस कैंडल ने ईएमए के नीचे ला दिया है, और यहाँ पे पैराबोलिक सार ऊपर जा चुका है प्राइस के ऊपर, प्राइस पैराबोलिक सार के नीचे है। तो अगर आप गौर से देखें तो इस कैंडल के ऊपर पैराबोलिक सार है, ये कैंडल 50 ईएमए से नीचे है, और प्राइस जो है वो विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर के नीचे -50 के नीचे जाके क्लोज हुआ है। तो मेरी एंट्री कहाँ बनेगी, मेरी एंट्री इसके नीचे बफर रख के बनेगी, इसके ऊपर बफर रख के मेरा एसएल होगा, 1:1 पे मैं 50% बुक करूंगा। बाकी 50% मैं कब बुक करूंगा, या तो विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर -50 के ऊपर चला जाए, या पैराबोलिक सार के ऊपर प्राइस चला जाए। तो इस केस में अगर आप देखो तो क्या हुआ है, पहले पैराबोलिक सार के ऊपर नहीं गया है, यहाँ पे उसने आपको कहीं एग्जिट दे दिया है, इस कैंडल पे आपको एग्जिट दे दिया है। दूसरा सेल का एग्जांपल हमको यहाँ मिल रहा था, यहाँ पे आप देखो तो मुश्किल से 1:1 मिला, उसके बाद प्राइस वापस आ गया, विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर ऊपर चला गया, और आपका कॉस्ट टू कॉस्ट का एसएल उसने हिट कर दिया बाकी 50% क्वांटिटी में। एक काम करते हैं, ये हमने इलस्ट्रेशन चार्ट स्क्रीनशॉट्स पे तो देख लिए, कॉइन डिसेस के प्लेटफॉर्म पे चले जाते हैं, लाइव में एक बाय एक सेल जो सामने हमको दिख जाता है वो एक एग्जांपल लगा के देख लेते हैं, ताकि आपको ये कॉन्फिडेंस आ जाए कि सिर्फ स्क्रीनशॉट्स में मैं नहीं दिखाता हूँ, लाइव चार्ट पे भी ये प्रैक्टिकली होता है, मैंने ढूंढ ढूंढ के नहीं निकाले हैं, प्रैक्टिकल में ये बनता है। तो चलो जाते हैं कॉइन डिसेस के चार्ट पे और चेक कर लेते हैं। तो अब हम आ गए हैं कॉइन डिसेस के चार्ट पे, यहाँ मैंने ऑलरेडी इंडिकेटर लगा के रखे हैं। अगर आप देखो पैराबोलिक सार मुझे क्या करना है, मैंने आपको जैसे बताया बाय डिफॉल्ट ये 0.02 0.02 0.2 आता है, हमें इसको क्या करना है, इसको 0.01 0.01 और 0.1 करना है, ये खास आपको याद रखना है। इसके बाद आपको क्या करना है, ईएमए आपको लगानी है, और ईएमए में आपको कर देना है यहाँ पे लेंथ 30, और स्टाइल मैंने व्हाइट और थिक कर दिया है खाली विजुअल एड के लिए। यहाँ पे विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर पे आ गया, ये मुझे रखनी है कितनी, 30, ये विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर मैंने 30 कर दी। इसकी स्टाइल में मैंने -50 कर दिया, बाय डिफॉल्ट ये 80-20 आता है, इसको -50 कर दिया, इसको मैंने कर दिया ओके, ताकि ये ब्लू लाइन -50 पे एग्जैक्टली बीच में बन जाए, और इसके ऊपर मेरा बाय है, इसके नीचे मेरा सेल है, लेकिन ब्लाइंडली ऊपर नीचे बाय सेल नहीं करना है। मुझे ये देखना है कि प्राइस ईएमए 30 के नीचे हो, और पैराबोलिक सार जो है वो प्राइस के ऊपर हो, और विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर जो है -50 के नीचे हो, तभी मैं सेल करूंगा। विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर -50 के ऊपर है, प्राइस 30 के ईएमए के ऊपर है, और पैराबोलिक सार प्राइस के नीचे चल रहा है, तभी मैं बाय करूंगा। यहाँ पे रैंडम चार्ट पे घुमाते फिराते हुए एग्जांपल्स देख लेते हैं, बाई के, सेल के, एसएल के, विप्सॉस के, कभी एंट्री मिली कभी एंट्री नहीं मिली, सारा एक बार में देख लेते हैं। तो ये जो कैंडल आप देख रहे हो यहाँ पे खास आप नोट कीजिए, ये कैंडल जो है ये आ गया 30 के ईएमए के नीचे, लेकिन क्या पैराबोलिक सार ऊपर है, नहीं है। पैराबोलिक सार ऊपर कहाँ पे चालू हुआ, यहाँ पे, तो ये कैंडल के ऊपर है 30 का ईएमए, पैराबोलिक सार भी ऊपर है, तो इस कैंडल के लो के नीचे मेरी एंट्री बनेगी। लेकिन एक और कंफर्मेशन चाहिए। क्या कंफर्मेशन चाहिए? जो नीचे विलियम्स परसेंटेज आ रहे हैं वो -50 से नीचे चाहिए। तो हम मिलाने की कोशिश करते हैं, क्या तीनों हमारे क्राइटेरिया में इस कैंडल पे मैच होते हैं। चलो, इस कैंडल के नीचे मैं देख रहा हूं विलियम्स परसेंटेज, आप देख लो गौर से, -89 है। -89 है, इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? -50 से ऊपर। लेकिन क्या ये -89 है? नहीं। ये आप देखो, मैं यहाँ पे एरो रखता हूं, देखिए -14, तो -50 से नीचे हुआ -14, -50 से ऊपर हुआ -89, तो 89 नहीं है, -14 है। तो ये तो मेरा क्राइटेरिया ओके हो जाता है। दूसरे मेरे क्राइटेरिया क्या ओके होते हैं? तो आप देख लीजिए, ये रहा पैराबोलिक सार कैंडल से ऊपर है, 30 का ईएमए कैंडल से ऊपर है, तो तीनों चीजें हमारी अलाइनमेंट में है। तो मैं क्या करूंगा, इस कैंडल की लो के नीचे बफर रख के ट्रेड करूंगा, कैंडल की हाई के ऊपर बफर रख के एसएल रखूंगा, 1:1 में 50% बुक करूंगा, और बाकी तब तक दौड़ाता रहूंगा ट्रेड को कि जब तक पैराबोलिक सार के ऊपर प्राइस नहीं निकल जाता, ईएमए के ऊपर प्राइस नहीं निकल जाता, या विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर -50 के ऊपर नहीं चला जाता। तीनों में से कोई भी एक चीज नहीं हो जाती। तो ये मेरा ट्रेड दौड़ रहा है, दौड़ रहा है, दौड़ रहा है। यहाँ पे पैराबोलिक सार जो है वो नीचे चला गया, प्राइस जो है वो ऊपर आ गया, तो यहाँ पे मेरा एंट्री में से निकल जाऊंगा। तो मेरा यहाँ पे पहला बुक हुआ प्रॉफिट, यहाँ पे दूसरा बुक हुआ प्रॉफिट, और मेरा दूसरा प्रॉफिट 1:2 नहीं हुआ, भले कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, लेकिन फिर भी मेरे को 1:1.5 तो मिला ही होगा। चलो आगे बढ़ते हैं, कोई और रैंडम एग्जांपल उठाते हैं। हर बार बाजू बाजू के एग्जांपल उठाएंगे तो आप बोलोगे सर ट्रेंड ढूंढ के आप एग्जांपल बताते हो, साइडवेज तो आप कभी बताते ही नहीं हो। तो ये इल्जाम मुझे नहीं चाहिए, मुझे मेरा किरदार एकदम क्लियर और साफ चाहिए। क्यों? क्योंकि हम यहाँ पे कॉइन DCX पे एक क्लियर काम करते हैं, ट्रांसपेरेंटली आपको एजुकेट करते हैं। तो जब ट्रांसपेरेंटली एजुकेट कर रहे हैं तो हमें कोई भी ब्लेम नहीं चाहिए। फिर भी कुछ क्रिटिक्स आते हैं कमेंट्स में आके, कुछ ना कुछ नेगेटिव बोल के जाते हैं, मुझे उस बात का बुरा नहीं लगता कि मुझे कोई कुछ बोल के जा रहा है। मुझे उस बात का बुरा लगता है कि हमारे इंटेंट को नहीं समझ रहे हो, हमारे पढ़ाने के तरीके को नहीं समझ रहे हो, और आप हमको रेगुलर यूट्यूबर्स की नज़र से देख रहे हो कि आप कंटेंट बेच रहे हो, वी आर नॉट सेलिंग हियर एनीथिंग। तो खास बात ये समझ लेना कि अगर आपको टेक्निकल एनालिसिस आती है ऑलरेडी तो यू आर वेरी लकी। सिर्फ आपको अपने आप को थोड़ा सा अपग्रेड करना है, क्योंकि इंस्ट्रूमेंट सारे नए हैं, क्रिप्टो स्पेस नया है, लेकिन तरीका वही पुराना है और कुछ खास नया नहीं है। बस अपने आप को आपको अपग्रेड करना है, जो करने के लिए मैं आया हूँ। और अगर आप मेरे साथ बने रहे तो मेरी जिम्मेदारी है कि आपको एक सक्सेसफुल ट्रेडर बना के छोड़ूंगा। तो ये आपको दिख रहा है, ये साइडवेज मार्केट है। साइडवेज मार्केट में हमें क्या देखना है, हमारा क्राइटेरिया फुलफिल होता है कि नहीं होता है, वो देखना है। मैं थोड़ा सा इस साइडवेज मार्केट को बड़ा करके देखता हूँ। यहाँ पे पैराबोलिक सार ऊपर है और प्राइस नीचे है, कैंडल ईएमए के नीचे है, और विलियम्स परसेंटेज आर भी नीचे है। तो मेरी एंट्री यहाँ पे बखूबी बनती है। मुझे एंट्री लेते वक्त नहीं पता है कि मेरा टारगेट होगा या मेरा एसएल होगा, आई डोंट नो। आगे बढ़ते हैं, देखते हैं कि यहाँ पे क्या हुआ। देखो, यहाँ पे मेरी एंट्री बनी इसके नीचे, इस कैंडल के नीचे, ये वाली कैंडल, ये इसके नीचे मेरी एंट्री बनी, इसके ऊपर मेरा एसएल। मेरा इसने 1:1 का भी टारगेट नहीं दिया, घुमा फिरा और क्या किया, जाके मेरा एसएल ले लिया। तो इस स्ट्रेटेजी में एसएल नहीं होंगे ऐसा नहीं है, लेकिन छोटे छोटे एसएल होंगे, लंबे लंबे टारगेट्स मिलेंगे, और विथ सॉस में तो कई बार आप बच जाओगे क्योंकि आपके तीनों क्राइटेरिया बैठते ही नहीं होंगे। हाँ, तीनों क्राइटेरिया नहीं बैठने की वजह से कभी अच्छे बड़े ट्रेड्स भी छूट जाएंगे, लेकिन वो बहुत रेयर होगा, बड़े ट्रेड्स पकड़ में आ ही जाएंगे। ये पूरा सिंक जो तीनों इंडिकेटर का है वो है ही ऐसा जादुई। अच्छा, मैं जब जादुई बोलता हूं तो आप ये मत समझना कि स्ट्रेटेजी में कोई जादू है, इट्स ऑल मैथमेटिक्स। ये तीनों का जो मैथमेटिकल फॉर्मूला है वो इतना अच्छे से एक दूसरे से सिंक होता है कि प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी आ जाती है। वापस मैं यहाँ पे बाई की एंट्री लेने की कोशिश करता हूँ, मेरा क्राइटेरिया फुलफिल हो रहा है, मैं बाई की एंट्री इसके ऊपर लूंगा कि नहीं लूंगा। तो अगर मैं देखूं तो ये मेरे दो क्राइटेरिया फुलफिल हो रहे हैं, लेकिन ये जो तीसरा क्राइटेरिया है वो फुलफिल नहीं हो रहा है, तो ये मेरी बाई की एंट्री बनी नहीं। तो विप्सो में मुझे बचा लिया इस सिस्टम ने। तो मैं एक जगह एसएल छोटा सा हिट हुआ, लेकिन यहाँ पे मेरा एसएल हिट हुआ, यहाँ पे मैं बच गया। अब आगे देखते हैं, यहाँ पे वापस मेरा ये वाला क्राइटेरिया फुलफिल हुआ है, ये वाला क्राइटेरिया भी फुलफिल हुआ है। अगर आप गौर से देखो तो नीचे वाला क्राइटेरिया भी फुलफिल हुआ है, लेकिन क्या इसका लो टूटा? नहीं टूटा। क्राइटेरिया फुलफिल हुए, लो नहीं टूटा, तो वापस मेरी एंट्री बच गई। तो यहाँ मेरा एसएल हुआ, यहाँ मैं बच गया, यहाँ मैं वापस बच गया। होते 3 एसएल, 3 की जगह एक ही छोटा एसएल हुआ, 2 जगह इस सिस्टम ने मुझे बचा लिया। अब देखते हैं इस सिस्टम ने क्या किया। इस सिस्टम ने यहाँ पे मुझे वापस एंट्री दी है। लेट मी सी क्या किया। ओ ब्यूटीफुल, देखो ये मैंने कोई सिलेक्ट नहीं किया था, रैंडम मैंने साइडवेज वाला मार्केट उठाया था। अगर आप गौर से देखो तो यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है, यहाँ पे विलियम्स परसेंटेज RB 50 के ऊपर है, -50 के ऊपर। देखो गौर से, यहाँ पे पैराबोलिक सार के ऊपर भी प्राइस है, 30 की EMA के ऊपर भी प्राइस है। इसकी हाई के ऊपर बफर रखे एंट्री, इसके लो के नीचे SL, और ये गया धाड़ ऊपर, एक साथ ऊपर चला गया। और फिर क्या हुआ, 1:1 तो मैंने बुक कर लिया होगा, आपको पता ही है। कॉस्ट टू कॉस्ट कर दिया होगा, वो भी आपको पता है। उसके बाद मेरी प्रॉफिट बुकिंग कहाँ पे जाके हुई, प्रॉफिट बुकिंग ये जब पैराबोलिक सार के नीचे प्राइस जाके क्लोज हुआ, यहाँ पे हुई। मेरी एंट्री यहाँ पे हुई थी, मेरा SL यहाँ पे था, मेरा TP1 कहीं यहाँ लगा होगा, और मेरा TP2 जो है वो यहाँ पे जाके लगा है। तो बहुत सिंपल मेथड है, बहुत तरीके से काम होता है। मैं यहाँ पे अपनी बड़ाई बताने के लिए वो टूल लगा के देखो 1:5 मिल गया, वो बात नहीं करूंगा। बहुत विजुअली क्लियर है कि अच्छा टारगेट मिला है। हर बार टूल लगाने का काम हम नहीं करेंगे। मैं खास करके टूल तब लगाता हूँ जब कोई चैलेंजिंग सिचुएशन हो, पता नहीं चलता हो कि प्रॉफिट हो रहा है कि लॉस हो रहा है। लेकिन यहाँ तो क्लियर बहुत अच्छा प्रॉफिट हो रहा है, और जहाँ एसएल लगा वो क्लियर एसएल था, तो मुझे देखने की जरूरत नहीं है। तो मैंने आपको सेल का ट्रेड भी बता दिया, बाई का ट्रेड भी बता दिया, विप्सो में क्या होता है वो भी बता दिया। 3 गलत ट्रेड मिल रहे थे, उसमें से एक में ही मुझे छोटा सा एसएल लगा, 2 में मैं बच गया, और उसके बाद लंबा ट्रेड देके उसने आगे पीछे का सूद समेत सब कुछ लौटा दिया। तो यहाँ तक ही ये स्ट्रेटेजी है। इस स्ट्रेटेजी को यहाँ हम खत्म करते हैं। होप आपको बहुत अच्छे से समझ में आया होगा। मेरी और मेरे टीम की मेहनत अच्छी लगती है तो प्लीज रिक्वेस्ट है, इस चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर लो, लोगों के साथ हमारा कंटेंट शेयर करो, और हमारा इंटेंट शेयर करो कि वी आर वेरी क्लियर, वी वांट टू मेक यू लर्न, वी वांट टू मेक यू अर्न। गुड बाय, साइनिंग ऑफ, आदिब नूरानी।
Wars often start with military goals, but they end because of political considerations. And this war may not be so different. The ongoing conflict stands in contrast to everything that Donald Trump promised. He vowed to end foreign wars. He promised to end wasteful spending. He assured peace and security for American citizens. Instead, he's plunged his country into war. We've discussed the military side of things, but what about the politics? Here's what opinion polls are saying. Around 53% of Americans oppose the attacks on Iran. Around 40% support the attacks. The remaining are uncertain. These numbers differ based on party loyalties. Around 89% of the Democrats oppose the war. So do 60% of independents. But among Republicans, 85% people support this war, meaning Trump's party is very much behind him. Having said that, there are 3 major problems. Number 1, his chief ideologues are breaking. I'm talking about people like Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson. These people have a giant pro-Trump audience. They played a key role in getting him elected, and most of them are breaking with Trump. They have opposed his war on Iran. Of course, their motivations vary. Tucker Carlson, for example, has been accused of vile anti-Semitism. So his criticism is more racial and religious than political. Nonetheless, it will make a dent. Problem number 2, Trump's own cabinet appears to be split. We've seen a lot of Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio since last week. That's the secretaries of war and state, the defense minister and foreign minister, basically. But guess who we haven't seen? Vice President J.D. Vance, National Intelligence Chief Tulsi Gabbard. Vance has barely posted or spoken about this war. The question is why? Perhaps because of politics. Trump does not have any more campaigns to run. He's on his last term as president. But J.D. Vance harbors presidential ambitions. He is hoping to clinch the Republican nomination in 2028. And for that, he needs to be careful. If things go south, J.D. Vance will want to insulate himself, basically limit the blowback on his political career. Several reports say that he advised against an attack on Iran. President Trump himself hinted at a rift.
Are there any points of disagreement between yourself and your vice president when it comes to U.S. action in Iran?
I don't think so, no. No, we get along very well on this. He was, I would say, philosophically a little bit different than me. I think he was maybe less enthusiastic about going, but he was quite enthusiastic.
Now to the third problem. What happens when the losses mount? So far, America has lost 7 soldiers in action. The Pentagon says 140 others have been wounded. Out of them, 8 are severely injured. If this toll rises, expect the American public sentiment to change. We've seen that repeatedly in the US. First in the Vietnam War, then in Iraq, and then again in Afghanistan. When the bodies pile up, public opinion changes, especially if American soldiers are put on the ground. Yesterday, the US government briefed some senators on the operations. One of them says troop deployment is likely.
We seem to be on a path toward deploying American troops on the ground in Iran to accomplish any of the potential objectives here.
Now to the fourth problem, mounting costs. This was supposed to be a cost-cutting presidency. After taking office, Donald Trump set up a department to cut government waste. But look at the mounting war expenditure. The first 2 days alone cost $5.6 billion. I'll repeat that for you. $5.6 billion in just 2 days. And remember what the Secretary of War said. Each day is more intense than the previous one, so chances are the expenses are only rising. The Pentagon is apparently seeking more funds from the US Congress. The Pentagon is their defense ministry. They want more money. Around $50 billion to replenish their stockpiles. Now imagine reading this as a US citizen. Your gas prices are up. Your grocery prices are surging. Your health care is unaffordable. Your student debt is still choking you. Meanwhile, the president is spending billions of dollars every day on a war you oppose. There was a funny meme on the first day of the war. It said, Iran is about to find out why Americans have no health care. It's funny, but it's true. There are clear indications that Trump is worried about the prices and the markets. He recently said the war is nearly completed. He also claimed it was won in many ways. These were aimed at calming the oil and stock markets. But if this continues, we could be looking at sustained inflation, especially if there is serious damage to the Gulf oil refineries. And if that happens, Donald Trump can forget the midterms. Elections to the US Congress will be held in November this year. Trump's party is already projected to lose its majority. A sustained war in Iran would seal their fate. So like I said, it may not be military considerations that end this war. It could very well be politics.
The world doesn't fit in boxes, so why should your news? From battlefields to negotiation tables, from internet outrage to real-world injustice. The conversations everyone is having and the ones they're avoiding. It's the same show, but this new year, First Post America gets a new look. I'm Kerry Johnston, and this is First Post America.
North Korea may have just named its next supreme leader, and she is a teenager. Her name is Kim Joo-ae, and she is the daughter of Kim Jong-un. You may have seen her before, standing next to ballistic missiles, watching test launches, surrounded by generals in full uniform saluting her. She may take charge after her father, because in North Korea, power is passed down like a family heirloom. So every public appearance is a message, and South Korean intelligence believes that the message is clear this time. Kim Joo-ae is not just Kim's daughter, she is the designated successor.
Considering all of that, Kim's daughter's presence is increasingly becoming more prominent domestically, and that she is giving her direct opinions on some policies during her on-site inspections, we can say it's somewhat unusual that the expression used was that she was in a stage of being internally appointed successor from that she was in study as successor.
So who is Kim Joo-ae? For years, nobody even knew she existed. The first hint came from an unlikely source. Former NBA star Dennis Rodman. He visited Pyongyang in 2013. He casually mentioned that he had held Kim's baby daughter, Ju. That was it. There was no talk about her after that until 2022. That's when a young girl appeared on North Korean state television. She was holding Kim Jong-un's hand, standing beside an intercontinental ballistic missile. Since then, she has been everywhere. Military parades, missile tests, banquets with generals, and visits to the Kumsusan Palace. That's where Kim's grandfather and father lie in state. She was even seen stepping off Kim's armored train. And in North Korea, such photos are not random. Every frame is propaganda. And in these frames, she's no longer walking behind Kim Jong-un. She walks beside him, sometimes even ahead of her father. That symbolism matters too. Seoul says she was being trained all these days, and now she has been formally designated. She has been named the heir. Some lawmakers say she is even offering inputs and giving her opinion on state policy. Remember, she's still a teen. By some estimates, she is about 13 years old. But why name her the successor right now? Kim is still in his early 40s. He does not look very ill. So what is the hurry? North Korea, as you know, is a dictatorship. It has been ruled by the Kim family since 1948. First, it was Kim Il-sung. Then his son, Kim Jong-il. And then his son, Kim Jong-un, the current leader. 3 generations have ruled North Korea. And the regime survives on what it calls the sacred bloodline, meaning only a Kim can rule the nation. So by introducing Ju early, Kim is doing 3 things. 1, he is normalizing her presence. 2, he is preparing the elite psychologically for her leadership. And 3, he is locking in dynastic continuity. If something happens to him, if something happens suddenly, there will be no power vacuum. The bloodline continues. That's the idea. Also, North Korea is deeply patriarchal. Analysts long assumed that a son would take over. South Korea believes there may be an older son too, a son of Kim Jong-un. But he has never been seen or acknowledged publicly. So why choose Ju? Why is she the chosen one? Perhaps because she is the one that Kim trusts the most. Perhaps because there is no son at all. Or if there is, he is not suitable or he is not well. So Kim Ju may be the safest choice. And announcing her early gives the kingdom some time to get used to having a female ruler. It also makes you wonder how the Kim dynasty holds on to power. Across the world, regimes have risen and fallen in this time. Leaders lose power within days sometimes. But the Kim family has stayed on as North Koreans continue to struggle. How have they managed to do that? By doing 4 things. First is brutal repression. The Kim dynasty crushes dissent early. Kim Jong-un executed his own uncle in 2013. Hundreds of officials have been purged over the years. Reactionary speech is a crime in North Korea. So even complaining about the regime can cost your life. The second thing they do is military control. This is a country of roughly 26 million people. It has around 1.3 million active duty soldiers. That's about 5% of the entire population. And military service lasts nearly a decade. It's not just about weapons, it's also ideological training. Loyalty to the Kim family is drilled in. The military is the spine of the regime. You control the military and you control the country. 3, nuclear weapons. North Korea is believed to have nuclear weapons, and that deters invasion by foreign powers. It prevents regime change from outside. And 4, isolation and indoctrination. From childhood, North Koreans are taught that the Kim family is sacred, the outside world is hostile, hardship is normal, independent thought is cut early, media is controlled, and the internet is restricted. Even then, despite all of this, there have been attempts to dethrone them. There have been assassination plots. Kim Jong-un has apparently survived multiple such attempts, which is why he has a big security entourage. When he took power in 2011, many had hoped for change. After all, this was a Western-educated young leader, so many thought he will reform the country. As it turned out, he did not. Will his daughter be different? If history is any guide, Kim Ju may not be a break from the system that empowers her. She may simply be its next caretaker.
He rebuilt Egypt's pride after defeat. He turned victory into legitimacy. Then he chose peace with Israel. He broke an Arab consensus. He challenged his own military. He silenced his critics at home. But then, one day, on a national parade ground, in front of cameras, in front of the world, gunmen stepped forward and killed Anwar Sadat. It changed Egypt overnight. The assassination, Saturday at these times, only on First Post.
It's the biggest arms deal in India's history. Nearly $40 billion, more than 100 fighter jets, missiles, patrol planes and air defenses. Basically, a comprehensive upgrade to India's military power. And it's coming just 8 months after India's Operation Sindoor. The idea is to replenish and expand our arsenal. So what exactly is the military looking to buy? How much will it cost? And how will it improve our capabilities? The latest package was approved by the DAC, that's the Defence Acquisition Council. It's the body that clears India's big-ticket arms deals. This one is worth 3.6 lakh crore rupees, which is nearly $40 billion. And what are we buying? The most significant item is the Rafale fighter jet. India wants to buy 114 of these planes. 18 of them will be bought off the shelf from France. The remaining will be assembled in India. Well, that's the proposal that New Delhi is pushing. Beyond this, a few other deals have also been cleared. India is set to buy interceptors for its S-400 air defense system. We deployed this weapon, the S-400, against Pakistan last year. The S-400 was used to shoot down Pakistani planes and missiles, so it's time to replenish them. Plus, India will buy 6 Boeing P-8I maritime patrol planes. The Indian Navy already operates 12 of these. The goal is to expand this fleet. Reports say the 6 planes will cost around $3 billion. Of course, all these are the sideshows. The big spotlight remains on the Rafales. I'll give you some quick background. The Rafale is a 4.5th generation fighter jet. It is made by France's Dassault Aviation. These planes have advanced avionics and sensors. They can be used for long-range strikes. The jets are fitted with different types of missiles. You've got the Meteor air-to-air missiles. You've got the Scalp long-range cruise missiles. You've got the Hammer long-range munition and the Exocet anti-ship missiles. The Rafales can be fitted with all of these. So it's a pretty comprehensive package. More importantly, the Indian military already uses them. The Air Force operates 36 Rafale jets. The Navy has placed an order for 26 naval versions. 26 naval versions of the Rafale. These are well integrated and battle tested. India deployed Rafale jets against Pakistan last year. We used the Scalp missiles to hit terror infrastructure across the border. Plus, they could soon be fitted with Indian weapons, specifically the next-gen BrahMos missiles, which is probably why the government went with the Rafales, because we use these planes already. And France is a trusted partner. France is offering to make in India. So all in all, it's a good proposal. The question is, what happens next? Well, the timing is appropriate. French President Emmanuel Macron is visiting India next week. It's the perfect chance to negotiate a government-to-government deal. We don't have a timeline yet, but such massive military deals tend to take time, months if not years. There is also the question of technology transfer. Dassault has tied up with the Tata Group in India. They're setting up a plant in Hyderabad. It is expected to produce Rafale fuselages by 2028. We'll have to see how much of the production actually is done in India. But beyond the terms and the timelines, what is the message here? What are the key takeaways from this deal? We can outline two main ones. First, India wants to expand its fleet fast, and I want to underline the word fast. You see, the Indian Air Force is dealing with a two-front challenge. You've got Pakistan to the west and China to the east. Our sanctioned squadron strength is 42. One squadron has around 16 to 18 fighter jets, and India has sanctioned 42 of these. But how many are actually operational? Just 29 squadrons. Out of the 42 sanctioned, only 29 are operational. To put this in perspective, Pakistan has 25 fighter squadrons. China is said to have around 50. What's worse, a lot of Indian jets will soon retire. The Jaguars, the MiG-29s, the Mirages, they will retire in the next decade. That's half of India's fleet gone. So where are the replacements? Our homegrown Tejas jet is running behind schedule. If we wait for them, India will fall behind. It may take us until 2040 to reach 42 squadrons. So what is the solution? Buy from outside. That's where the Rafales come in. We must see this as a quick solution to a long-term problem, which brings us to the second takeaway. India has chosen to not buy a fifth-generation jet. This is a 4.5th generation, not a fifth-generation jet. And this has also been a huge debate. China has deployed 2 fifth-generation warplanes. Pakistan is looking to buy these from Beijing. Plus, India had two offers on the table. The Americans wanted to sell us the F-35 jets. The Russians wanted to sell us the Su-57. And yet, India is buying more than 100 4.5th-generation planes. So what's the message here? For starters, neither plane fit the bill. Neither the F-35 nor the Su-57. The American F-35 would not integrate well with India's existing arsenal, and the Russian plane's stealth capabilities are debatable. At the same time, both these options are very expensive. So instead of buying a few fifth-generation jets, India is going for a larger Rafale deal. Just do the math. 114 jets make up around 7 squadrons. As for the fifth-gen planes, India is betting on its homegrown project. The prototype is expected by 2028, and it is expected to enter production by 2034, India's own fifth-gen fighter jet. Until then, we seem to be betting on the Rafale. It's a calculated decision by the Indian government. We should have more clarity after President Macron's visit.
He rebuilt Egypt's pride after defeat. He turned victory into legitimacy. Then he chose peace with Israel. He broke an Arab consensus. He challenged his own military. He silenced his critics at home. But then, one day, on a national parade ground, in front of cameras, in front of the world, gunmen stepped forward and killed Anwar Sadat. It changed Egypt overnight. The assassination, Saturday at these times, only on First Post.
This is a historic day. The UK-India deal is now signed, sealed, and ready to be delivered.
मुझे विश्वास है कि हमारी साझेदारी दोनों देशों के लोगों के लिए एक मैच विनिंग पार्टनरशिप साबित होगी।
We did it. We delivered the mother of all deals. We are creating a market of 2 billion people
with Modi. He's great. Prime Minister, he's great.
We told you about the deal with the United States. It's a big deal, but it's not a one-off. In just the last 5 months, India has signed or struck some of the biggest trade deals in its history. With Britain, with the European Union, with Oman, with New Zealand, and now with the United States. So from London to Brussels, from the Gulf to the Pacific, the message is clear. The world is making a beeline for India. The first to sign the deal was the United Kingdom. For years, talks between India and Britain were stalled. The conversation outlived multiple prime ministers, but in 2025, they concluded it. For post-Brexit UK, the deal was about survival. For India, it was about leverage. The deal cuts tariffs, it opens services, and it boosts mobility. It also signals something bigger, the need for a market as big as India.
It is a deal that will bring huge benefits to both of our countries, boosting wages, raising living standards, and putting more money in the pockets of working people. It is good for jobs, it is good for business, cutting tariffs and making trade cheaper, quicker, and easier.
Days later, New Delhi locked in another agreement, this time with Oman. Under this deal, nearly 98% of Indian exports get duty-free access. From textiles to engineering goods, it's a commercial win and a strategic one. After all, it strengthens India's footprint in the Gulf. Then it was New Zealand. The two sides signed a full-fledged trade agreement. The negotiation was concluded in 9 months. Again, it was a very big deal. There's zero duty access for Indian exports and major commitments on services and investment. And here too, India's agricultural interests were protected. After that, it was what they call the mother of all deals. That's what the Europeans said. The trade deal with the European Union and India. It's something both sides have been trying to achieve for nearly 20 years. For nearly 2 decades, negotiations went nowhere. There were different standards, different priorities, different politics. But this January, things moved fast. The EU leaders were in India. Both sides concluded the deal, and it was quite an achievement.
Prime Minister, distinguished friend, we did it. We delivered the mother of all deals. We are creating a market of 2 billion people. And this is the tale of two giants, the world's second and fourth largest economies, two giants who choose partnership in a true win-win fashion.
And now we have this deal with the United States. But it doesn't stop here. Leaders from across the globe are landing in New Delhi. In January, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz was in India. The two countries signed MOUs, memorandums of understanding. They range from technology to defense.
Particularly in view of the profound geopolitical changes and upheavals in the world, we share a fundamental interest in deepening our strategic partnership. As important as Europe and transatlantic relations remain for us Germans, we must now establish a further, larger network of partnerships and do so quickly and with staying power. India is a partner of choice for Germany in this regard.
Then, on the 19th of January, UAE President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, or MBZ, landed in India. It was a short visit. It lasted for barely 3 hours. But India and the UAE achieved a lot in this time. The two sides agreed on a mega defense plan. There are plans to boost trade. Plus, there is a $3 billion LNG deal, that's liquefied natural gas.
Following the signing of the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement between the two countries in 2022, the bilateral trade has since crossed $100 billion. And in view of this, the two leaders decided to raise ambitions and look to double bilateral trade to $200 billion by 2032.
Later this month, Brazil's president is coming to India. His name is Lula da Silva. The two sides could look at expanding trade, especially in South America. Then there is Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada. He is supposed to be in New Delhi in March. He too wants a trade agreement. And this one is particularly interesting because just a year ago, India and Canada India and Canada ties had hit rock bottom. Both sides had expelled diplomats. There were a lot of accusations. And we've come a long way since. Carney's visit shows that Canada needs India more right now. So what explains this larger trend? Why are all these countries and leaders keen to work with India? Because the old trade playbook is broken. The United States is unpredictable, China is overproducing and undercutting, supply chains are brittle, middle powers like Europe, Canada, Japan, the Gulf, they're all looking for reliable scale. And India offers exactly that. A 1.4 billion strong market, one of the top 5 global economies, and a politically stable player. India is big enough to matter and independent enough to be trusted. This also marks a change in India's own thinking. For decades, India was wary of free trade. Self-reliance came first. Economic entanglement was seen as a risk. That logic has flipped. Today, India sees strength in selective integration. Lower tariffs on inputs, cheaper manufacturing, and better access for textiles, gems, engineering, electronics. The goal is simple: make in India, but sell to the world. So in a world where alliances are shaky and rules keep changing, India is trying to do something remarkable, turning global uncertainty into opportunity.
The world doesn't fit in boxes, so why should your news? From battlefields to negotiation tables, from internet outrage to real-world injustice. The conversations everyone is having and the ones they're avoiding. It's the same show, but this new year, First Post America gets a new look. I'm Kerry Johnston, and this is First Post America.
The year was 1979, the date February 1st. It was quite a foggy morning in Tehran, but cutting through that fog, a plane landed at the airport. A chartered Air France flight. Slowly the plane came to a standstill, and from it emerged a bearded figure. A firm look on his face, a turban over his head, and a black robe trailing behind. The figure was unmistakable. It was Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. He had returned to Iran after 14 years in exile. He spent that time in Iraq and France, but that Thursday morning, he was back. It's probably the most important day in Iran's modern history. Millions of people turned up to welcome him. They cheered his every move and word. Khomeini would go on to declare an Islamic Republic in Iran. It ended almost 2,500 years of the Persian Empire, not to mention changed West Asia forever. But as historians say, revolution is the easy part. Building a country is much harder. So how did the Ayatollah set about creating modern-day Iran? How was the country's power structure made? Time for a flashback. You cannot understand modern Iran without understanding Khomeini. The country is built in his image. By the 1950s and 60s, he was already popular. His claim to fame? Opposing the Shah of Iran. The Shah was a Western ally. He tried to create a secular and liberal Iran. But Khomeini despised this. His hardline politics eventually got him exiled. In 1964, he moved to Iraq. It was here that Khomeini created the foundations of an Islamic state. But every state needs a glue. In democracies, it's the people. In monarchies, it's the royal family. What would that glue be in Iran? Khomeini settled on the Shia Muslim clergy. This concept was called Velayat-e-Faqih, or guardianship of the Islamic jurist. He explained it in a series of lectures which became a book. Khomeini said God created Islam to be followed as per the divine law, what is called the Sharia. And who knows the Sharia best? The Muslim clerics. So he said it's natural for the clerics to rule Iran. This concept was added to Iran's constitution, but not without drama. By 1978, it was clear that the Shah's regime would fall. It was only a question of when. So Khomeini's allies began making a draft constitution. It was said to be a progressive one. Separation of powers, United Nations Charter, no Velayat-e-Faqih, and no supreme leader. Khomeini brought this draft with him to Iran. In public, he said it was a nice document. And this is where we see shades of Khomeini, the politician. You see, the Iran of 1979 had many powerful groups. You had the Kurds, you had the working class, you also had the Marxists. So Khomeini did not want to rock the boat at first. But slowly, he made his intentions clear. First, he organized a nationwide referendum. And the question was simple. Should Iran be an Islamic republic or not? 98.2% voters said yes. So Khomeini announced his next step. He cancelled support for a proposed constituent assembly. This assembly was supposed to ratify the draft, but Khomeini said no need. Instead, he formed another body, the Assembly of Experts. Around 72 delegates were elected to this body. 55 of them were clerics. You can guess what happened next. This assembly overhauled Iran's draft constitution. It enshrined Velayat-e-Faqih, focused heavily on the Sharia, and made Khomeini supreme leader for life. This constitution was put to the public in late 1979. It was implemented the next year, and thus the Islamic Republic was formed, after which Khomeini shifted to his next goal, reshaping Iran's society and polity. It would take up the final 10 years of his life. The country was very liberal back then. The clothes, the music, the college syllabus, all of it was quite progressive. So Khomeini went about dismantling it. He banned most democratic political parties. He shut down several magazines and newspapers. And in 1981, he began a cultural revolution. Universities were shut for 2 years. In this time, the syllabus was totally changed. Progressive ideas out, political Islam in. Almost 20,000 teachers were fired. Apparently, they were too westernized. Now, all of this did trigger some backlash. Iran's liberals and Marxists were not happy with Khomeini. So he needed someone to crack down on them. The army was not an option. In 1953, the Iranian army had sided with Western powers. Together, they had toppled Iran's elected leader. During the revolution, the army had promised to remain neutral, but Khomeini was wary. He did not trust them enough. So the supreme leader turned to his own militia, the Islamic Revolutionary Guards. It was different and independent from Iran's army, and it reported to just one man, Supreme Leader Khomeini. By 1982, the Guards got their own overseas wing, and in 1985, a Navy and Air Force. All of this with Khomeini's blessings. The Guards were also deployed inside Iran, sort of like a moral police. They would go around enforcing the Sharia, like asking women to cover their faces or forcing men to grow beards. And all of this made one thing quite clear. Iran's revolution was not going to be democratic or progressive. It was going to be hardline Islamist, which often led to political chaos. Iran's first elections were held in January 1980. Abul Hassan Bani Sadr became president. He was an advisor to Khomeini, but he wasn't a hardliner, not like the supreme leader. Just one problem though. Bani Sadr did not control the parliament. Most lawmakers belonged to the Islamic Republic Party, a radical group formed by Khomeini loyalists. So pretty soon they clashed. Bani Sadr proposed 3 names for his prime minister. All 3 were rejected by parliament. Khomeini did try to settle these differences, but soon it boiled over. Bani Sadr became a rallying hero for dissidents, and Khomeini did not like this. He supported the impeachment of Bani Sadr. So the president ended up fleeing to France. What followed next was a purge. Opposition party members were arrested in the thousands. Many of them were executed. Some exiled Iranians say the regime killed 20,000 political prisoners. Of course, sometimes they hit back. Like in August 1981, Iranian dissidents bombed the Islamic Republic Party's headquarters. They killed the new president and his prime minister. So the first few years of the revolution were quite violent. Iran was still struggling with its identity. But stability came in late 1981. After the bombing, another presidential election was held, the third one in 21 months. This time, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was elected. You may know him as the supreme leader today, but in the 1980s, he was the president. Khamenei served 2 terms until 1989. Iran's politics during this time was very complicated, mostly because of the power structure. On the one hand, it was a theocracy. Sovereignty did not lie with the people, it lay with God. On the other hand, it was a revolutionary republic. So you couldn't ignore the people. This hybrid structure led to a lot of complications, not to mention bickering. First, you have the president. He decides economic and administrative policy, but he does not control the military. Then you have the parliament. It has around 290 seats. All lawmakers are directly elected by the people, but the parliament is not absolute. Its laws are checked by another body, that is the Council of Guardians. Now, this council has 12 members. 6 of them are appointed by the supreme leader. The rest are suggested by the judiciary. You can guess where these suggestions really come from, but the council's job is very important. Say the parliament passes a law, this council will see whether it conforms with the Sharia. If not, it can crack down. So effectively, the council has a veto over parliament. It also decides who can stand for elections. Just consider the 1997 presidential election. 230 candidates wanted to contest. Only 4 made it to the ballot. Another powerful body is the Assembly of Experts. We mentioned this at the start. It's the same one that drafted Iran's constitution, but now its job is different. This assembly has 86 Iranian clerics. They are elected to 8-year terms by the public. And who decides the candidates? Again, the Council of Guardians. The assembly's main job is to elect the next supreme leader. And I know the structure may sound complicated, but one thing is quite clear. All these bodies draw power from the same place, the supreme leader of Iran. Of course, sometimes there are squabbles. Like in 1988, the parliament was on one side, the Guardian Council on the other. Neither side was backing down, so Supreme Leader Khomeini formed another body, the Expediency Council. It has more than 30 members, and most of them are hardliners. Do you see the strategy here? Iran has created multiple bodies and councils to distribute power, to check and balance each other. But in reality, it's an illusion to shield the real power in the country, which is the supreme leader. Again, let's look at the 1997 election. It was a watershed moment in Iran because the reformists beat the hardliners. Mohammad Khatami became president. He was re-elected by a landslide in 2001. So in the next election, the Guardian Council stepped in. In 2004, they disqualified thousands of reformist candidates, so the hardliners won the parliament. We saw that again in the last election. Hassan Rouhani had been president from 2013 to 2021. He was widely regarded as a moderate. So in the 2021 election, the Guardian stepped in again. They disqualified 585 candidates. Only 7 were left on the ballot. All 7 were hardliners. So the trend is pretty clear. Every few years, Iran has a moderate wave, but it's snuffed out by the clerics and guardians. Supreme leader 1, democracy 0. The question is, what does the future hold? Can any group challenge the regime in Iran? The obvious candidate would have been the army, but it's a shadow of its former self. From 1980 to 1988, the army fought a war with Iraq. They lost around 250,000 men, and since then the army has been stationed at the border, far away from the power center. Plus, it's been purged of dissidents. Thousands of officers were fired or detained in the 1980s. Their loyalties were questioned. So the army is weak. What about a clerical power struggle? Ayatollah Khamenei is almost 84 years old. Surely succession is on everyone's mind. And the last one was quite dramatic. Khomeini's chosen heir apparent was Hussein Ali Montazeri, an Ayatollah and disciple of Khomeini. But in 1988, he criticized the regime. He opposed the detentions and executions. So Montazeri was stripped of his role. The next year, in 1989, Khomeini died. So the Assembly of Experts selected a junior cleric, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. The revolutionary regime is almost 45 years old, which is young in relative terms. It has done a lot to strengthen its position, from domestic crackdowns to creating an alliance of proxies in the region. But what it hasn't done is welfare. Iran's economy has struggled to break free under the regime, mostly because of sanctions. There is also discontent about conservative laws, like the ones around hijab. So the key to sustaining the revolution could be modernizing it. But the flip side is this. A modernized revolution is a slippery slope. We saw that with the Soviet Union. When they modernized their revolution, the regime collapsed. I guess striking a balance will be key. Let's begin with a quiz. Who was the first Prime Minister of independent India? Easy, right? Okay, who was the first Home Minister of Free India? Again, it should be easy. But do you know who was India's first Home Secretary? Or India's first Cabinet Secretary? If you're a quizzer, maybe. Otherwise, chances are you don't. It's an unfortunate reality of our history. We only see politicians as the makers of modern India, not civil servants or bureaucrats or the good old babus. Now, don't get me wrong, the leaders deserve the spotlight. Most of it would not have been possible without them. But they alone did not make our country. The foundations were also laid by our civil servants, some foreign, some Indian. They advised the ministers and politicians. They ran day-to-day affairs. They put new systems and checks in place. So today, we are bringing you their story. The story of the unsung makers of modern India. Time for a flashback. Our story doesn't start at independence. It begins around 200 years before that. The British East India Company was capturing power in India. They needed bureaucrats, people to run their growing empire. So the company created the CCS, or the Covenanted Civil Service. Your merit did not really matter. The company's directors would choose you. Once picked, you would sail down to India. But by the 1850s, things changed. A civil service commission was set up in London. From 1855, regular exams were held. If you cracked that, you would get appointed. And before you think, wow, that's a lot like today, it wasn't. The exams were only held in London. The syllabus was mostly European classics. So for most Indians, it was a non-starter. Nonetheless, some did crack this elite test. The first Indian in the Indian civil services was Satyendranath Tagore. He was the brother of Rabindranath Tagore. He cracked the test in 1864. 3 years later, 4 others also succeeded. But these men were the exceptions. The norm was white British civil servants. By 1883, there were just 12 Indians in the civil service, the Indian civil service. By 1915, it was 63. The rest were all Europeans. The largely white bureaucracy ruled over the 250 million Indians. It was unfair, but then again, what would you expect? It was the British Raj. India waited a long time for the civil services exam to be held at home. It finally happened after the First World War. From 1922, exams were held in Allahabad. Later, Delhi also became a center. Now, this was important because the test became more accessible to Indians. More Indians could write it, so more Indians could become civil servants in their own country. Eventually, they began acing it. Subhash Chandra Bose, for example, stood 4th in the 1920 batch. He also reported for his training. But the next year, in 1921, he resigned, and we all know what happened next. Same story with police officers. Most of them were Europeans. Until 1931, only 20% of the posts were filled by Indians. This would change around the beginning of the Second World War. Now, why did I tell you this long backstory? Because the past is crucial to understand the present and the future. India's civil service was not made for Indians. It was made for the British, much like the Indian Railways or the Post. Don't think of these European officers as loyal to India. They were the embodiment of Imperial Britain. As someone once said to Jawaharlal Nehru, they were neither Indian, nor civil, nor servants. So even at independence, the civil service retained those characteristics, at least some of them. Let's look at pre-partition India in 1947. We had 980 civil service officers. 468 of them were Europeans, so around 47% of them. The rest were Indians. 352 Hindus, 101 Muslims, 25 Indian Christians, 13 Parsis and 10 Sikhs. After partition, the service was split. India created the Indian Administrative Service, IAS. Pakistan created the Pakistan Administrative Service. Both still exist. Their officers became the backbone of these new countries. In India, the politicians realized one thing, good or bad, you needed the civil servants, especially Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. This was a speech to the Constituent Assembly. There is no alternative to this administrative system. The union will go. You will not have a united India if you do not have good all India services. It tells you how important they were. We say Sardar Patel united India, but he himself said the civil services kept India united. So what exactly did they do? Well, the roles were split into different jobs. Some of them served in the central department, the central government, as secretaries or joint secretaries. Others served in the judicial side of things, basically in courts. They could become a district judge or a judge at the state high court. And finally, some served in the states as district collectors or assistant commissioners. They kept the wheels running. While politicians made grand plans, these civil servants steadied the ship, and it was no easy task. Most of the European officers left after 1947. They either retired or joined the British civil service, but a handful did stay behind. Meet J.P.L. Gwynne. He served in Free India's Board of Revenue until 1968. He was the last British citizen from the Indian civil services. By the late 1970s, most of these men had retired or left. The ICS had given way to the IAS. The last officer was Nirmal Kumar.